You're listening to Girls with Grafts, a burn community podcast created by Phoenix Society for Burn Survivors, a leading nonprofit dedicated to supporting the burn community. In this podcast, we'll talk with burn survivors, share resources to help with supporting and improving burn recovery, and discuss how to prevent burn injuries. Here are your hosts, burn survivors and Phoenix Society's marketing team, Amber Wilcox and Rachel Kudlak.
Hello and welcome back to Girls with Grafts. I'm Rachel Kudlak. I'm one of the co-hosts of the podcast, and I'm joined today by my lovely co-host, Amber Wilcox.
Hi there. Long time no see. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? I'm excited. It's June. I love summertime. So I'm all around happy today. Sunshine.
Yeah, I'm really excited for today's chat. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. So if you're watching us on one of those channels and you have questions today, start thinking up those burning questions, I guess we like to joke around and say, and put them in the chat. And we will pop your comments on screen and get you featured here, and you have your questions answered. So with that, Rachel, I'll turn it over to you so you can introduce our guest and our sponsor today.
Yes. So before I introduce our guest, which if you see the title, you probably know who it is, but I do want to give a special shout out to Exerco Medical. They are a leading edge device manufacturer of products for tissue banks and healthcare professionals, and they deliver the healing power of skin through skin grafting. We appreciate their ongoing support of our mission and the burn community, and you can learn more by visiting their website, which is linked below in our show description. So without further ado, we are chatting with the CEO today. So we have Amy Acton back on the podcast. Amy is the CEO of Phoenix Society for Burn Survivors, where she has served the organization for over 20 years. She is a burn survivor, former burn nurse, and leading advocate for the burn community. Amy has dedicated her career to promoting the expansion of burn recovery services and resources for burn survivors and their loved ones. So thank you so much, Amy, for joining us again on the podcast.
Great to be here, guys. It's good to see you again, and glad you're enjoying summer.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Amy. So today's podcast, as I mentioned, is a little bit different than usual. We're recording that live and want this to just be an open conversation, a chat with the CEO per se. So if you're listening live, leave your questions and comments in the chat, and we will shoot them over to Amy and ask her the questions. We do obviously want to also keep the conversation going, though. So we have some ongoing questions to ask you, Amy. But if things pop up, you'll see our little comments pop up in the screen, and we'll take a pause from our conversation to answer questions that do come through.
Sounds great.
Yes. And if you are either watching or listening to the podcast later, not when we're live, you can still submit your questions. We'll get back to you. You can always send us an email too, if you have some questions. So we'll give you some time. I don't see any comments yet, but definitely drop your questions below. So let's just get started, Amy, with some general Phoenix Society updates. You are a returning guest to the podcast, but I know it's been a little time since you've been on with us. And I know personally that there are some exciting updates on Phoenix SOAR. So do you just want to kind of share some of the behind the scenes work that's going on with Phoenix SOAR right now?
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot going on right now with Phoenix SOAR. And as you know, that's kind of our core of what we do is peer support. And it's our kind of key program right now. It's hospital based, and we have it in many hospitals throughout the country and in a few different countries. Right now, we're expanding SOAR and training Spanish SOAR. So NFPA has helped us translate all the content and training materials and resources. And we've been engaging future trainers that are bilingual. And we'll be doing probably our first course near the end of the year, first of the year, of actual peer supporters. So the hospitals, when we were at ABA recently, were super excited about this to expand access to those Spanish-speaking survivors and their family members. So we're super excited about that. The other thing that we're doing is continuing to just expand. We were at ABA recently, the American Burn Association meeting, and I think we had like 10 hospitals interested in coming on board with SOAR, bringing peer support to the hospital, which is still a big interest. But we also know that people are looking for it in the outpatient community setting. So Phoenix Society is exploring with a few key partners on how we could expand and provide a platform for peer support to be happening in the community. And that will be ongoing this year, what that new model will be looking like.
And Amy, can you maybe just give us a little bit more background for our listeners who don't maybe even know what Phoenix SOAR is? Can you tell us a little bit about the history of the program and maybe how it's changed a little over time too?
Sure. Well, back when I first started, obviously Alan believed in peer support, and our whole organization was built on the concept that knowing someone else who's gone through this eases that journey forward, right? And so we were kind of informal about how we did that in the past. But to really bring it into the hospital, we needed to have a structured training program, identified what peer support is. And it's someone that's been through the injury or a family member that has been out from their burn at least a year and that is interested in kind of supporting someone new on their journey. So we provide training both for the hospital staff on how to incorporate peer support into their team, and also training for the survivors and family members on what that role is and what it's not. Providing peer support is a really amazing opportunity for growth personally. I know when I first started working on the burn unit, I was giving peer support kind of accidentally because I happened to have a burn too. And so those interactions are just unique and timely to help answer some of those kind of concerns that patients and families have because they don't know what that journey is, the next step. They've never been there. So hearing that it can be done, hearing that life can be positive and seeing that future is really critical for many people.
Amy, thanks for that information and for those updates on SOAR. That's very exciting. It looks like we have more folks joining. So for those of you that are still joining us, if you have questions for Amy today, this is your live chat. So feel free to ask away. So Amy, while we're waiting for those questions to come through, along with Phoenix SOAR, how else is Phoenix Society building relationships with hospitals and burn care providers?
Well, we recently conducted a couple different surveys. One, I think, Amber, you helped us do this kind of state of the survivor. And then we did kind of a customer journey mapping process and got feedback from hundreds of survivors and their family members. And we identified that transition from hospital to home with data is one of the biggest challenges, not knowing what to expect. And we've been talking about this within our community and within the American Burn Association for several years. So we're really zeroing in on that transition from hospital to home and working with our hospital partners on a program called the Journey Forward program. And that really incorporates SOAR, but also all the other resources and connections that Phoenix Society can help make for patients and families. So we've started by developing, and Rachel's been a big partner in this, developing a burn care professional webpage that those in the hospital can go to. It's a kind of one-stop shop for them to find resources about SOAR, the research and literature about aftercare and what survivors need to be successful living with a burn injury, and then tools for their patients and families to help that transition home. We're also providing some CEU courses for hospital staff to train them about some of these needs. There's a lot of new burn care professionals out there. There's been a lot of transition in the teams. So we're providing 2 CEU courses for professionals, helping them with the tools that we find valuable, like the social skills tools that help people answer the questions and staring and teasing. We've been working with UT Southwestern and Barbara Kammerer Quayle to develop a training program for the healthcare professionals so they feel equipped and ready to answer those questions when the patient or family says, I'm scared about going out there. What are people going to say? How do I react? But we have tools and we have resources that can ease that transition.
Yeah, and we just had Brianna Bollinger on a few weeks ago, or maybe even, just a month ago, because she's been really instrumental in one of the CEU courses that'll be coming out, just talking about that psychosocial, needs of burn survivors. And, what I love hearing from, her and now you, Amy, too, is that balance between being a burn nurse and also being a burn survivor, and what roles, you, like you said, you were probably helping patients and just naturally giving peer support without even recognizing that you were giving peer support at the time. And, I love kind of how both of you have that, overlap and that collaboration, and how, we can use those skills to help, other nurses who aren't burn survivors, how they can provide, the best support to their patients.
Yeah. And I think the Phoenix Society's role has been helping to bring that survivor voice into the ABA meeting, where a lot of the healthcare professionals come for professional training, but bringing that perspective of the survivor and the importance of some of these programs and activities to that group, right? And where they can ask those questions and curiosities that they have about what is it like to live with a burn injury, because they just see kind of that front end of that experience. And so being able to hear the stories, what the challenges are, and then what the maybe opportunities are to make that easier, has been what I consider one of the biggest contributions of the Phoenix Society. And when I say Phoenix Society, I mean our community. By sharing our voices, by really advocating for these needs. It's been a team effort, and the voices of so many people that have come to ABA, told their story in the Journey magazine, really helping to expand the knowledge of what it's like to live with a burn injury successfully.
Yeah, and even with the one we're doing with Barbara and UT Southwestern on the social skills, we do have a course on online training right now for survivors and loved ones, but I really love that we're taking it that next step. And how can we equip, the burn care providers to, get those skills started, or at least brought up, when they're still in the hospital recovering, because we know that time is so critical.
Yeah, for sure. It's been, just like peer support has been a central piece of what we do, the social skills and the kind of awareness of psychosocial needs has been a cornerstone of what Phoenix Society is focused on.
Yeah, so I do see we have kind of one comment / question. We'll turn into a question from Bryce here. So Bryce said, I have trouble with my friends. They say they understand my pain, but they've never been burned before. I think, all three of us on the podcast right now can relate to this. So maybe we can all share a little bit about, how do you talk about, your pain, or how can you help maybe your friends and loved ones understand your pain, even though they may think they understand, but maybe you're struggling there a little bit.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back to when I was a newer survivor. I think the reality was that they can't really they try hard, and I think most of them were very compassionate to me and wanting to help. Everything from helping me button my pants because I didn't have my hands working to just being there for me. Um, but for them to truly understand kind of the pain is tough, and sometimes they don't know what to do. So I think it's more of not knowing how to help than not caring is what I feel. But then I think it also is sometimes you need more than a friend, and you need a place to go with that pain and those challenges, whether it's a counselor, a peer supporter, somebody that can help you with that piece, because ultimately it's what you have to do to kind of move forward. That's my spin. I'm anxious to hear what you guys say.
I think, Bryce, from my perspective, I think one of the newer survivors of the group here. So I was older when I was burned as well. And I do have friends out there that didn't understand my pain. And sometimes you have like two types of friends, right? You have the friends that are there for you and understand your pain. But then you do have friends that just don't understand or maybe aren't as or seemingly compassionate about it. So I did my best to communicate the best that I could of what I needed, because I think sometimes we forget that, yeah, they don't understand, but if we don't communicate with them, they're not going to. I know for me, though, I also shared my story. So I spent a lot of time on social media sharing some very raw details of what happened, and that helped. But I do have to say, too, the support groups that Phoenix Society offered were those opportunities for me to have friends that did understand. So I had the friends that didn't have the understanding that weren't burn survivors. And then I became a part of a group like the Phoenix Society that was a virtual environment where I met other folks that did understand, whether it was through our Facebook chat that we have online or through those virtual Zoom Monday evening meetings that Phoenix Society offers. That was my time to talk to others that understood my pain. And then I kind of put it somewhere for the folks that didn't understand because they hadn't gone through it like the others that had.
Yeah, I mean, I relate to both of you said. Finding that community where you can find others who do feel that same pain as you, or just who you can relate to a little bit more when you're talking about your burn injury because they've been there. I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about, peer support and Phoenix Story. That's the heart of that program. And also I would, encourage your friends or loved ones to find other friends and loved ones who are in similar shoes as well. As you're trying to find someone who you can relate to, maybe they can get connected with another friend or loved one, and they can share their experience as well. Because we know a burn injury does affect more than just the burn survivor. Maybe they're struggling too, and they're not sure how to, relate. This also got me thinking a little because I was burned as a child. So I don't necessarily remember a ton of like that physical pain, and it just is what it is. And I just got over it because I had to do it, versus now as an adult coming back, now I have some different struggles I'm going through. And now it's interesting just talking to like my husband now, who's not a burn survivor, who didn't know me during my burn injury or that physical healing. And how can I talk to him even just about maybe some of the emotional and mental struggles I'm dealing with, and trying to help him understand what I'm going through.
Yeah, I think it's really hard for someone who's on the outside to understand that. And I think some of the best emotions I had were with the people that truly tried to understand. And you, like I had mentioned earlier, like I think you learn, right? Like the folks that don't try to understand or aren't there to support you, even though they don't understand, that's where you kind of learn, I think, where friendships are and understand that boundary. But it can be really hurtful when you have friends that don't understand. But for me, I just found friends that did and kind of shifted my focus, especially during that time, to the emotional healing that I dealt with those friends. And it looks like we have more comments coming in as well. So Rachel, it looks like Nikki agrees with you there. Like at 9 months, she didn't have counseling that she needed and the support she needed through that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the opposite, kind of what you guys are talking. If you don't have support, or sometimes I felt like I also walled it off. I didn't want to talk about it, and so I kind of shut
Mm-hmm.
that down for my friends. I was 18 at the time, so I think that was also that piece of just shutting down and not going there with your friends and kind of being tough about it was something I did a lot too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And good afternoon, Octavia. Thanks for joining us live. It's great to have you here. But yeah, for any of our other listeners, if you have questions or comments, even if you just want to share a little bit about your journey, whether you're a survivor, loved one, friend, whoever you are, we'd love to hear from you. So fill up the comments below. So while we wait for some more questions and things to come through, I do want to transition a little bit to Phoenix World Burn Congress, which is coming up this fall. We're bringing it back. We're gathering in person in October 4th through 7th. So I know it's June, but October will be here.
It's a hot topic too. I know our
Yes.
community is very excited, Amy. So they want to hear from you about this special event.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know if we can get any more excited than we are. It's been way too long, and I think 2019 feels like eons ago. And this is the heart. This is the heart of Phoenix society, and I think there's been rumors and rumblings that we're not doing World Burn anymore, and so there's been a lot of mixed messages over COVID about what was going to transpire here. We did pause, and I would think it was a healthy pause for us. We've been doing it for, I think it's our 35th one or something. I don't know what it is, Rachel, but been doing it a long time, and we've built it over time and added things and taken things away. And but we really did a survey of the community and reimagined with you about what it could be. So we could continue to serve face to face, bring the community together in such a special way, a safe and supportive way, but in a number that you can usually find somebody that you can relate to. And I think that's the kind of specialness about Phoenix World Burn, because there are other groups meeting now that didn't used to happen when World Burn started. There wasn't a lot of different groups having retreats and other activities around the country when we were started. Now there is, so we can let go of some of that work and then focus on bringing the community together and building our voice as a community and understanding what these broad needs are, and start to advocate for those. So World Burn also has a lot of new people come the first time, and I think they come with a lot of trepidation and feeling a little bit of unease. So we've added a kind of first time event that we highly encourage you to participate in. And I think there'll be some pre-conference opportunities for you to connect with people before you get on the ground. So using some of what we learned over COVID to connect people before they just show up. So we hope to do a few things that will kind of bring people into the community a little more supported and connected, so you don't show up there not knowing a single soul. So that's one of the things.
With that, this is at every Congress, there's a large number of first-time attendees, and I'm sure we expect that this year. Do you have any advice or tips for those that are attending World Burn for the first time this October?
Well, like I said, I would try to connect, if you haven't already, to the online groups, because you'll meet people there that are going, and you can kind of maybe schedule a time to meet. There's that first time attendee event that you should go to. And I think realizing that it takes time, that first day is going to be a little uneasy, but reach out, find somebody to talk to, even if it's a volunteer with a volunteer shirt on. Try to make a connection. Set a little goal for yourself. That's what I often tell people. Set a goal. If I'm going to talk to 3 people in registration line to try to break the ice, but you'll be amazed at how quickly people will reach out and embrace you, and welcome you at their table. Find a table and sit down with a group and ask them why they're there. I think those are things that I've found people success in.
Yeah, I mean, I know from my first Phoenix World Burn Congress, I showed up. I wasn't by myself, but I didn't travel with anyone. I was a party of one. And, I had been to burn camps. I've been around burn survivors. And at this point, I was probably like 20 years post my injury. So I thought I was great in my recovery and journey and the place I was. But that first day was still so overwhelming, and such a good way at the time. I felt, it was a little overwhelming just seeing everyone, and I thought I was prepared for that. So, whether you are a new survivor, someone years out, and this is, the first Congress you're joining us for, schedule some time to also, just give yourself a break, meet up with a friend, or maybe even come with a friend or a loved one. I would definitely recommend that if you can.
Yeah. Taking a walk around the outside is always good too, if you're feeling a little overwhelmed. But what we don't want you to do is go to your room and not come back. I think there'll be people there to support you. So if you're struggling a little bit, just reach out to a volunteer and they'll help you get connected. They'll walk you right through it. And we are going to have kind of a mentoring program, I believe too, Rachel, that we're working on. So people can connect with somebody that's been there before to kind of coach them on that process.
Definitely. Well, we do have some more comments coming through, so we'll take a quick pause with Phoenix World Burn Congress. We'll come back to it though. So Bryce left us another comment. So a third of his body was covered in third-degree burns, all upper body and face. And he was in the hospital for a month, and doctors said a couple of times that he shouldn't have made it. So they say it's a miracle because they didn't think he would make it, and he got out in 2 to 3 months. And, thanks for sharing that with us today, Bryce. And, it truly is, power of the mind. And, I imagine, Bryce, that you did a lot of that, and you healed yourself up, and I know you're still on that journey. So thanks again for sharing that with us. And Octavia is here as well. She is a burn survivor who suffered 2nd and 3rd degree burns from her neck down to her glutes. She also had some grafting. It was very rough. She says, I did not have my husband and my mother who were great support, but there were things that they didn't understand. For me, when I couldn't express my feelings vocally, I would write notes. So we love that. And we know, whether you're writing notes or journaling or writing poetry or painting or whatever it may be, art is such a great therapy form for our community. Yes, and Jack Robertson, Amber and I were actually special guests on his podcast. So Jack, if you want to leave the name of your podcast, I'm blanking on it right now, leave it in the comments below. But he said he received a bunch of compliments from when we were guests. So Jack, thank you so much for joining us live today, and thank you so much for having us on guests. It was a lot of fun to record with you.
Yes, we had a good time on that podcast for sure. Well, with that, I think that's all the comments we have for now. So continue to drop them in the notes if you have. But let's get back to World Burn a little bit, if it's all right. And Rachel, do you have a question for Amy about World Burn?
Yes. So I know we talked about, the first time attendees, which we know we'll see a bunch of them. But we know that so many of our community members are excited to be back together. So there will be also a large number of returnees. So you talked a little bit about the break that we took from World Burn and maybe some of the changes that we're seeing, but this year's going to look a little different. There's still things like open mic. Don't worry, that's not going anywhere. It's going to be there this fall. But maybe could you talk a little bit about some of, the schedule changes or just some of the reimagined ideas that are coming in?
Yeah, well, again, if you can imagine some of the things we started doing, and I'll use one that's going to be a little bit of a bummer, but it's the reality of growth, is we started having fire service kind of go to the airport and help and transport people from airport to the hotel. We started that when we had 200 people. When you grow to 1,000, that becomes nearly impossible. And especially with the short-staffed of some fire departments, getting those volunteers has become a challenge. So we aren't going to be able to provide that this year, though you'll definitely feel the fire service presence on site, and they're participating in the DC Firefighters Burn Foundation as one of our leading hosts. So they will still be very much involved and part of the conference, and survivors of firefighters that have been injured and their families will be participating. So that's still there. The other thing that we're doing is shifting the remembrance walk that we used to kind of start with to kind of remember the losses that we've had, kind of centering us and grounding us in that. But we're shifting that to be at the end, where we come in solidarity as a community, to really talk about what's next after World Burn. How do we stay connected? How do we continue to support one another? And how do we lift our voices as one, as a united group, to talk about the needs of this community for healthcare, prevention, ways that we can add our voice to prevention, and other kind of proactive things that we can do to support ourselves. So we're gonna have the walk of solidarity instead, and that will be kind of how we close up the conference. And a lot of this was directly kind of pulled from the community and what they were looking for and what they felt were the hallmarks of World Burn: more social time, more ability to network, and focus on health and wellness.
Definitely. Yeah, I know our wellness and vendor fair are reimagined. Some of that core idea is still there, but we just are enhancing it a little bit. And like you said, Amy, we did an extensive Phoenix World Burn Congress survey. We got a lot of information. I mean, for example, when we first released our schedule for this year, we did not have a dance party on it. We heard that their dance party was needed. So guess what's on the schedule now? We're having a dance party. So, we're all evolving, as ourselves personally, the Congress, it's about testing some new things and trying some things out. So personally, I'm really excited for this year.
Yeah, and I think, the Phoenix Society is the convener of this, but it is a community that makes it happen, right? It's the many foundations that are sending people and providing people resources to come. It's the healthcare, MedStar being a key sponsor, and the joy of being together. So we are creating that space. It'll continue to evolve, and we learn every year about things that we can do, and trying really hard in this environment to keep it as affordable as we can. And that's why we also continue to provide online resources and connection, because we know not everybody can get there. And that is the sad truth. I wish everybody could be there at least once in their lifetime, because it is a transformational community.
For sure. Yeah, and I know we have another comment from Jen here too, which she kind of touches on that a little bit. So for her, art's a great way to express herself. She did a lot of crafting to help work her hands. So that's also another, if you can get some of that physical therapy benefit from some art, that's even better. But she said, it not only helped me physically, it helped me mentally get through some rough spots. I'm less than a year post-accident and definitely struggle a lot mentally. One of these years I'll be able to attend, but not this year. I hope to get to an in-person meeting, but so far there are none in my area. So Jen, I'm not sure where you're located. There are a ton of regional events. You may have already looked at our community calendar, and if there's not one near you, we'd love to get you at least virtually connected with our community. So feel free to reach out to us, send us an email. We want to make sure you can get some connection. So I know that power of that community is so powerful. And Amy, like you said, there are so many great regional and in-person and local events happening these days. So definitely check out our calendar, even reach out to your local hospital, burn center, and see what events they're having as well.
Yeah, and I think Phoenix Society's overall kind of shift has been to continue to be kind of the convener and connector. We are not going to have it all. We don't, but we can connect, and we know we have a vast network of people that we know in the community that we can often connect you with. And I'm resonating with your art and the use of art as healing. I used food, cooking. I didn't have a lot of use with my hands, so I took up trying to cook different ethnic foods. That was my kind of hobby while I was recovering, and trying to cut with a knife was a big challenge for me, but something that really brought me joy in the trying.
I love that. Well, Phoenix World Burn Congress registration is currently open. So if you are planning on attending, I encourage you to register now. Early bird pricing will run through September 1st. So register before then. You have a little under 2 months for early bird registration still. So, and as a reminder, we'll have all of the links in the show's description, whether you're watching us live or later or whenever it may be. We'll have the registration link, the full schedule, tips for planning, with travel and flying. And it's in National Harbor, Maryland, which is right outside of DC. So, great. There's lots of airports and local transit options. So we have all that on our website. So I also did the math. It's 120 days away, just for those who want to be counting down with me, because I'm excited. So 120 days to go, people. We'll get there.
That's not too far out.
I'll be here before you know it.
Well, switching gears, Amy, to another conference. Both Amy, you and Rachel attended the American Burn Association's annual meeting in Dallas, Texas. It looked like it was a lot of fun. Rachel told me great things about it. Amy, can you share a little bit more about the event for those that are listening today? And what are some of the key takeaways from this year's conference?
Yeah, so the American Burn Association and the organization is the kind of medical community that serves burn patients and families. Most of the burn centers are members and attend that conference. So it's medically kind of focused, acute care focus and rehab. I think what struck me and continues to be exciting is that the conversation about living with a burn injury, the chronic issues that we might be dealing with, the psychosocial challenges, community-based programming is continuing to permeate the conversation. And I give credit to those in the Phoenix Society that have been working tirelessly, and the survivor community that, again, has been sharing their voice there. Sorry, I have a cat that is very anxious to say hello to everybody. So I'm going to try to tuck him in under here. So anyways, I think that what struck me this year was Barbara Cameron-Quayle was awarded a Special Achievement Award for her work in the social skills. And she has been an influence on my career and my life, and the Phoenix Society, because she helped design and develop one of our core programs, the social skills training that we just talked about earlier. So to see her get awarded for her work, tireless work in this community over decades, was really exciting. And many people in the opening session talked about Phoenix Society and the importance of that partnership. So that tells us that we are on the right track as an organization, filling a very specific need, helping people transition from acute to community, and serving as that convener and connector. So we had a lot of people, Scott Denman, Jeanette, and many people participated in that. And I'm not going to name them all. Jennifer, were survivor voices that the healthcare community really values. They need to hear it. It makes their work real, and helps them strive to even provide even better care than they already are. That's kind of my take on it. And our booth was hopping. Rachel was very busy at the booth, along with Lily and Sandra. It was one of the busier booths that I saw at ABA, which is also great.
Yeah, it was so much fun. I mean, for me personally, I haven't been in person with the community for a while, and I've been, talking and emailing and Zooming with so many people, especially some of our healthcare folks. And it was so nice to actually meet them in person and just, have time to connect with them. I mean, Rebecca Allalay was one. I mean, she's been a guest on Girls with Grafts. She's on our Phoenix World Burn Congress program committee. She's doing so much work behind the scenes with us, and it was so nice to actually meet her in person. And to what you were saying earlier, Amy, too, about there's a lot of young staff or new staff in burn centers and burn units. So that was one thing that was really eye-opening for me was, we have folks like Rebecca who have been advocates for us for years and years and years. And then we had folks who were like, I heard about you in a session and I don't know anything about Phoenix Society. Yeah. So what do I need to know? And I was like, well, how much time do you have? Because that will depend on my answer. Yeah. But it was exciting to see, so many new folks who are new to our community get excited about our programming, get excited about how they can help. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's really refreshing and exciting, quite frankly, is that the burn centers are very anxious to invite Phoenix Society into their work. And I look back 25 years ago, that wasn't necessarily the case. It was kind of like, what are you doing? And what's this peer support about? I don't know about that. Now it is really, they want to partner with the Phoenix Society and the burn survivors in the community to be an adjunct to their care. And they see the value of the voices of the survivor, that peer support, that lived experience that we can share. And I think what we can do with that network is help them translate the medical research into a consumer information that we need to know so we know what to expect. So we're able to identify experts in laser. We're able to identify reconstructive folks that are doing some really amazing work and share that with the community, understanding chronic health issues and what the research is now showing, and us bringing that back and sharing it with the community. So it's ABA and Phoenix Society is a really strong partnership. And we look forward to continuing to build that in the years to come.
Definitely. Yeah, it was a great conference just happening last month. So it seems like so long ago now, but I know we're still catching up on emails from being there for the week.
I like the location too. The location was fun. The Gaylord there.
Yes, definitely. Well, I know we're coming up on our time here today. So if you are listening, you do have any last minute questions or comments that you want us to cover, please drop them in now. So Amy, I know we talked about AVA, we talked about Phoenix World Burn Congress, some of events. What are some other, are there any other updates on Phoenix Society? I know there's a golf outing coming up later this summer. So what else do you have to share with us today?
Well, I know Tony and Jamie were on a podcast recently, and that's such a wonderful story of peer support and the just impact of peer support on one individual. Jamie meeting Tony early in his recovery and realizing he could be a golfer again. And he's now a professional at the golf course where we hold the golf outing. So this is a 16th annual burn awareness golf outing that Tony and Jamie have kind of helped lead. That'll be in August. So if you like to golf, you want to come join us in Chicago area, come join us, or golf remotely and participate that way. So that's an exciting thing. I think we have other projects in the works. I think there's a lot of new content, and I'm not going to spill the beans, Rachel, but I know you are feverishly working on some new content, very specific content that the survivor community is asking for, which will come out in resources online. And those are always happening. I'm most excited about the community-based peer support and how we're going to continue to evolve to that place where we can engage SOAR trained volunteers out in the community as well. Mm-hmm. So lots of ways for you to get involved and participate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, I obviously encourage everyone to sign up for our newsletter. So definitely sign up if you're not already subscribed. Comes once a month. It'll be filled with those updates, whether you want to learn more about the golf outing, or you're interested in the CEUs, or you want to become a peer supporter. There's a lot of great, I'm a little biased, but there's a lot of great content in those newsletters. So I definitely encourage you to sign up and visit our website. Just explore some of our programs and offerings if you're not overly familiar with us. And even if you are, there's always new things.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, I know we're short on time. So Amy, we do have 2 final questions for you, but I just want to thank you for joining us, and thank you for everyone for submitting questions and comments. Like I said, if you're listening to this later or catching up on episodes in a few months from now, whenever it is, you can definitely always send us an email, leave your comments below, and we'll get back to you.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank everybody that participates with Phoenix Society and the different programs. And you are Phoenix Society. So thank you for your participation and adding your voice.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, Amy, as we wrap up today, I know you've been a guest on the podcast a few times. So we want to switch up those final questions for you. While the first day of summer isn't still for a few days, it is summertime. June is here. I know here in Florida, I'm already feeling the heat. But what's one thing that you're looking forward to doing this summer?
I am looking forward to going camping in the UP and with my dog and being on the river. I love nature, so I spend a lot of time out in the woods and on the river.
That's
it.
wonderful.
Yes. Well, you kind of led into my second question I had prepared for you. So, I mean, our listeners know Amber and I both have dogs. We both love dogs. So
sometimes you hear our dogs.
Yes. So, Amy, I have to ask about your dog, because I don't know if everyone listening knows that you do have a pup at home.
I do.
So tell us a little bit about Bramble and maybe what his favorite thing to do is.
Bramble is a Springer, and his favorite thing to do is to play in the sprinkler. And he is a fanatic about the sprinkler or anything water. He is just crazy about it. And as you notice, I also have a cat in the house, which is dog-like. And his favorite thing is to get on your lap and start biting at you while you're talking on a podcast.
Yeah, join in.
Well, it looked like you had a tail at one point during the podcast. I just saw Amy had a tail. So
he's in my lap. I'm holding him down with all my might. He's amazing.
Well, like we said, if you have questions after the podcast, don't hesitate to email us at info@phoenix-society.org to get your questions answered. The team is standing by to answer any questions that you may have. You can definitely leave comments if you enjoyed the podcast as well. But with that, I want to thank you, Amy, for joining us today and telling us a little bit about what's happening right now with Phoenix Society. It was great talking to you again.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody.
Yes. Thank you so much.
See ya.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Girls with Grafts. If you are enjoying this content, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. This helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.